I started as a counselor. I was on the counseling staff for 12 years, and then I moved to administration, and I was Dean of Continuing Education and Community Services, which was a fantastic job, including the Emeritus Institute. And then I went on to be the Vice Chancellor of Educational Services, and even 1 year as Acting Chancellor. And then I went back to the classroom, and I was a full-time faculty member teaching psychology. So I went in, I feel like I had 7 careers and got to stay in the same district. So it was a wonderful career, wonderful opportunities, and touched every bit of life at Saddleback College. And then, of course, especially going back to the classroom, after being out of the classroom for 15 years, it was a fantastic experience. And it had been so long that when I was teaching, and I gave regular quizzes as everyone did in the day, and a student finally came up to me and said, you know, you've got to watch the students. And I was watching the students carefully in terms of the quiz and to make sure that no one was cheating or that everything was going as it should. Last time I had been in the classroom, you sat next to the person where you were cheating. And when I came back to the classroom, you just texted somebody down in the front row. So I had a lot to learn, and all of these things brought me up to speed, both in my discipline and in the world of teaching and in the students. So I learned who the modern student was, a contemporary student, which prepared me very well to go on and be a president in another district. So it was great fun.
That job was very interesting. We used to do things like band tours. We don't do anything like that these days, but we would take all the equipment, load it in a Ryder truck, and drive around up to San Francisco and take all the performing groups and perform and stuff. So I was there working with Jim Locke. The two of us kind of ran that department for quite a while, all the technical support and recording and whatnot. But it was 1979, they started the radio station had grown from that point, because it was a little 10-watt radio station when we started it. But in that time that I was in the music department, they had gone to become an NPR station. It grew quite large, and they got a big power increase, so they were a 3,000-watt station, NPR, full-time staff. And that went for several years, but there came a point, and it was 1984 is kind of the switchover point, that they decided they didn't want a full-time NPR station. They wanted to have the station cater to the students and the classes and everything. So it was a major switch. They let go of the NPR affiliation. They swapped out the station and created classes for radio. And that's when I left the music department and went over to the Comm Arts department, and I became the manager of the radio station at that time. So we started from scratch building a student radio station. It was in the library still at that point. And over the years, I think I was with the radio station 12 years as general manager, and built that up to what it is. Obviously, we get all the students in the classes and got a full 24-hour operation again. We moved to a new facility in student services in, I think it was 1990, when the building opened. So that's when the radio station left the library facility and moved back up to the student services facility, to SSC, where it is today. It was a jazz station during the NPR days. They decided just not to change it, and so as it moved into a student station, it just stayed with the same format and has held that way ever since. And so that brings up to about 1996. They were just starting to develop technology on campus. There were just as far as computers in those days, there were just little pockets of computers. I believe there was a small lab in science, math, and engineering, and in the TAS department had a small lab. But that was they were isolated. And that was the extent of computers on campus, except for one-offs, just in some places. Some departments had computers. So the plan in 1996 was the district technology plan #1. It was the initial plan. It was to roll out a network throughout the entire campus and then put a computer on every full-time person's desk in the campus. So it meant all full-time faculty and all full-time staff. So that's the point I got into technology. So we ended up pulling all the cable and the fiber in the streets and getting all that going. And then we deployed all those computers on the first round. And that's when email became very popular. We had a website at that point. Everybody had web pages. That was the start of that whole process during that. Well, Ned Daphne was president at the time, and that's who gave me that position. There was some change. Nancy Reynolds was in there at the time. She moved up to IVC, which created that opening, and then I went from the radio station into the technology position. So I've held 3 positions here over my time. So all the way up till today, I will have that position. And so I don't know how many years that makes that, somewhere around 16, I think. So And of course, over that time, we've grown in leaps and bounds. So I mean, the computer count, the lab count, I think we're up to 30 computer labs, student computer labs on campus these days.
Computers.
We have about 2,000, right at the 2,000 mark on computers on campus. So, and we've continued, of course, it goes with all the upgrades. In that time, we've gone through a couple phone systems, several network upgrades. We're just about, actually at this point in time, we're about to upgrade the network for another time and pull all new fiber through the streets. So it's just been a progression of upgrades.
I was hired as a half speech instructor, half theater instructor. So I sort of did both. We were teaching on the lower campus, which we still, as of 2013, have buildings down there today. I think it's gone through a variety of permutations, but it's still there. And many of us taught out of these, little buildings. We even had a theater in what I think was our building. That's the letter R. We put on about 6 shows per year. Wynn Pierce was the full-time theater instructor at the time, and I would direct mostly, at that time, Reader's Theater productions, and Wynn would produce the full productions until our main theater got built. Boy, I'm having trouble with the dates here on that one, but a couple of years later.
Over the years and time, I was the Dean of Health Sciences, and the title kept changing. At that time, the college was just experiencing growth, looking at different programs. And so first thing that happened was Dr. Lombardi, who had been the president superintendent at that time, got very interested in gerontology. And so he wanted the division to be named Health Sciences and Gerontology. And it was also a very a good match for the nursing program. So we became Health Sciences and Gerontology that later had several different names until finally, as it is now called, the Division of Health Sciences and Human Services. I did that, and that was from 1984 until, I started doing some combined things. I have this thing about getting bored easily, and I don't know why. There's always plenty to do, but I decided that I would apply for the position, or at least I think at that time, I believe Cal Nelson was the president at Saddleback College, and I decided to offer to do the Dean of Health Sciences and as well do the Dean of Technology, or what did we call it then? Applied Science and Technology. And so I offered to do that and just do the two of them, at least for a while, until they could get a dean. So I was the dean of the two divisions, I think maybe for 2 years. And then I decided, besides that, they'd found someone then, and I decided it's probably good. I could use a little time off from that. But I enjoyed it. I loved it. I learned more. I learned things about automotive and environmental science and drafting and all kinds of different things, which I really enjoyed. So I did that a while, and then went back to being the Dean of Health Sciences and Human Services. Then there was sort of a toss-up with the Board of Trustees, and I'm sure most everybody here remembers that. But at that time, they wanted to change divisions around. And so they combined some divisions. And at that time, and this must have been 1997, and I came back from vacation in August, and somebody said, "Oh, by the way, you're now also the Dean of Math, Science, and Engineering." And I go, "What?" So, because just as it had been before, though, it wasn't anything new. It was still that Math, Science, and Engineering was way over on upper campus, and Health Sciences was down on lower campus. But I started doing that and enjoyed it thoroughly. Lovely people over there. And then about March, or close to March of 1998, the position as the vice president for instruction came up, and I thought, well, I'm just going to apply for that because I've always wanted to do that. Oh, I have to tell you, it is the hardest job I ever had. I got the interim position. Thank goodness it was only an interim. It gave me the opportunity to find out that was not my cup of tea. It was too intense in technological use of numbers and being so wrapped up in that. And it's a perfect job for some people, but it just wasn't for me. So at the time, Rich McCullough was the president at Saddleback College. And he was a one-year replacement, and so the presidency came up, and I kept hanging back, and I kept telling Rich, you know, go for it, go for it. And he didn't, and finally I said, look, I have to ask you because the time's running out. If you're going to go for it, I'm not. But if you are not going to go for it, then I'm going to do it. Well, I went ahead and made my application, and lo and behold, I think he did the same thing, but he decided to withdraw. He was really a faculty member person, but he's a great administrator too, but he really loved teaching. So he decided to go back to the classroom, and then that was when I got the job as the president of Saddleback College, and of course was there in that position until about, until 2004 when I retired. And since that time, I've just been having a great time working for the district. First thing that happened was I received a call from Dr. Mather, who was at that time the chancellor, and he asked me if I would consider doing an interim as the Dean of Math, Science, and Engineering up at Irvine Valley College because I already had a brief experience. So I went up there and I was there for 8 months. I liked it. It was great. The people, I thought, oh my gosh, the president of Saddleback College, and there's a little bit of sibling rivalry here, and how are they going to treat me? They were wonderful. They were marvelous people, kind, considerate, treated me like I had been there forever. So I enjoyed that. And then they hired a dean at that time. So then the next appointment I had was I had a call, and they asked if I would be interested in being the interim dean of fine arts here at Saddleback. And I said, sure, I'd love that. Of course, I really did. It was one of my favorite jobs because you could sit in the office in the afternoon and you could hear singing over here and piano over here and violin there. It was great. So I really loved it, and even got to be in a play thanks to my friend Carmen. So I really enjoyed that position, but it lasted much longer than I anticipated. I was in that position from June of that year, I think it was 2009, or 1st of July until June of 2010. And at that time, Dr. Mather had resigned, and they asked me to do the interim chancellor, and I did that for 6 months. It's a bit, I enjoyed it a lot. I learned a lot of different things. And you know, and everybody, again, everyone treated me so nice. If I hadn't had a lot of help, you can easily fall on your face. But everyone was very nice to me, and it's a bit too much away from students for my liking, because students seem not to find us unless they were clear up to some kind of legal issues or something, and I like it when students are being students and having fun and doing the things that they should be doing. So anyway, but that's kind of the history of my tenure at Saddleback in the district.
And I spent 26 years here, and I did, golly, what did I? Well, I started as a counselor and faculty member, then I just went to a coordinator of counseling, then I went to the dean of that. Then I went to the vice president, dean of students, and the vice president of student services. And in my last 6 or 7 years, I was the vice chancellor of administrative services. So total 26 years. And of course, since then, I've been back 5 times in the interim assignments, 3 at Saddleback and 2 at Irvine Valley. So it's been a marvelous, I guess now it's close to 40 years. It's been a marvelous 40 years. I'm very fortunate.
I was fortunate enough to be hired into a position that my predecessor was someone who was highly regarded, had been probably one of the 3 or 4 people in California that had established financial aid programs in California. And she provided a lot of assistance to me, a lot of help, because I was stepping into that position brand new. One of the things that I think was most difficult here at Saddleback College was we didn't have huge numbers of people that were eligible for financial aid programs, but we did have the opportunity to go out and find people that probably would have never known about financial aid had it not been for the fact that the college set up the program to make it available to everyone. I was in that position from 1977, I think it was, maybe 78, until 1982, at which time I was hired as the Associate Dean of Student Development. And that was a position that allowed me to really kind of step in and become part of the educational institution as an educator. I was in charge of the student development program, or student government. I had an opportunity to set up a program that really benefited students in terms of their understanding governance and their understanding the role of students in governance. And I really felt exceptional about the 6 years that I spent in that position.